Hey everybody. So I'm going to do a quick video for you on how to make a histogram, in Google Sheets. So I'm going to use, there's an assignment that you may or may not have done yet about, from last time we had done about creating a frequency table in Google Sheets. So I'm going to use that same assignment and show you how to create a histogram. It's pretty simple. Most of it is automated. There will just be a few things we have to do. So let me open up, share with you my page. All right, so you should see my frequency table. So I've got my frequency table here. And I want to make a histogram of this same data. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to select, remember we're doing this column D. I'm going to select the first piece of data and move down to the last piece of data. So this is the data I want a histogram for. And then I'm going to select Insert up in the file, up in the menus along the top, and look for Chart about halfway down. And so it throws a chart in there, right? It's thrown in, it's used infection rate % from my table here, thrown in as a title. We're actually not going to want that. And this is also not a histogram. It took a guess as to what I thought what it thought I wanted, but in this case, it guessed wrong. So we have to fix it. So I'm now notice this chart editor over here has opened up, so we can change the chart. And in case you ever lose the chart editor by clicking out of it, notice it's disappeared. If I click on the chart I want to edit under these three dots, you can get your chart editor back here. So the first thing I need to do is get a histogram instead of this scatter plot. So I've selected this drop-down menu for the chart type, and I'm going to scroll down, and histogram is down here. Okay, and so you see immediately I've got a histogram table going on. However, let's play with a few settings on this thing so that we can get used to some of the things we can do with this. So I'm going to come into Customize and change a few things. So there are some style options here that you can choose, right? If we decided we wanted a different typeface, for instance, and change some colors. I'm going to leave all of that alone for now. One of our options is histogram. So this is settings that are particular to histograms. In this case, it's the bucket size, right? They call it bucket size. We've been calling it class. Sometimes I call it bucket size, right? In our frequency table, we had the size was 0.20. It's chosen automatically. It has a little algorithm it runs, and it decided to do 0.38, it looks like. So what we're going to do is choose a different bucket size. Let's choose something different from our frequency table, but let's choose something close. For instance, maybe I decide I want to choose, so notice I've clicked over here where it says bucket size, I've selected auto. I can just type in 0. Let's try 1.5 and see what it looks like, right? And so you see down along this edge, we get the bins, right? The first one goes from 0 to 0.15, 0.15 to 0.3, and on and on and on. Let's change it one more time. Let's go to something like 0.30, right? So it's the same data, but depending on the bucket size, we get a little bit different of a look, right? We're not going to get into the business of trying to decide what's the perfect bucket size. Remember our rule of thumb, anywhere between say 5 and 20 buckets is usually, or classes is usually ideal. So I'm going to stick with what we've got here, right? I've chosen different classes than the frequency table, so it looks a little bit different. We could choose what we chose over here. You might notice it's not exactly the same as this. The histogram function counts different on the division, so I think it throws everything into the bottom. So the 0.2 to 0.4 would include all of the 0.5 4s, I believe. I forget exactly the rules. But again, it's not an exact science, so I don't mind about those little edge cases. I'm still getting a good picture of my data, right? I can see that the data is, for instance, most of the infection rates are down at this bottom end. There's very few hospitals with these higher infection rates, which is probably a good thing. All right, let's leave those class sizes alone. Let's change a few other things. So along the vertical axis, it has written infection rate, which is incorrect. Remember, in a frequency table along our vertical axis, we always get the frequency. Did I spell? Yeah. All right. Again, if you want to, you can change typefaces, those kinds of things. I'll leave it alone. So that's our vertical axis. We could go to the horizontal axis option, and I want to put in a horizontal action. For that, I'll put in infection. Infection rate as a %. Right, and you can see automatically in our horizontal axis here that now becomes labeled. Let's also look at the chart title. Let's just show you that we can change it. For instance, if I change it to infection rates, yeah, we'll just leave it as that. Then we get infection rates, the S populated here. And see, I've accidentally closed my window. I want to bring edit chart back. Let's see what else we might want to change. There's not much other stuff we want to do with this. There's a few things in here if you want to play with, you can. For instance, we can make those labels slanted on the bottom if you think that that looks a little nicer. I'll let you guys play with those things on your own. The basics we've gone through already. And that's it. This is our nice histogram for this data. And then you can see it's pretty easy to compute or to produce one of these things, right? And just like with the tables, if you were to copy and paste this chart into a paper, it will show up and be linked back to this. And so it's pretty nice if you ever wanted to do some kind of report on data that you can actually quickly grab these things and put them into your notes or whatever it is you want to put them into. Oh, let's do one more thing. This chart is tied to this data. So if I were to come in here, for instance, and change this data, let's see, let's just change it for a second so it becomes, sorry, I'll change this one, right? Right, I changed this piece of data here, and you may have noticed the chart changed automatically. This bucket size used to go up to a frequency of 4, but I made that data bigger, so it left it. It went down to 3, and that data moved somewhere else. Let's change it back and keep an eye on the histogram. I'll hit enter right now, and when I say now, it'll change. Now. And we saw the data that was sitting over here because I'd made it larger move back to where it originally was, right? So this is nice because if you ever have some data and you end up making an error, you don't have to go through the whole process of building your chart again. It just updates as you fix those kinds of errors. This is why we like, one of the reasons we like these computers, and when we program them to use the programs for them to reference other things, we can change those things and everything updates automatically. Okay, that is it for this. It's pretty simple to make histograms. I'll be asking you to do that on your own shortly, so you can always come back and review this. See you next time.